the history of Buddhism and Gautam Buddha. In this video, we will explore Buddha and the cause of rise of Buddhism. In the next video, we'll explore in details the Buddhist doctrines, the Buddhist church called the Sangha, and the Buddhist council. Buddha was born with the name Siddhartha in Lumbini village of Kapilavastu in Nepal in the year 563 BC. We know this because of Rumnade pillar of Ashoka the Great. Father of Siddhartha or Gautam Buddha was called Suddhodana and his mother was called Maya. She was a princess and later she died during childbirth. Buddha also had a wife called Yashodhara and a son called Rahula. In a bit, we will discuss in details how Siddhartha became Gautam Buddha. Now let us look at the social origin of Buddhism and why it gained popularity. In the post-Vedic age, which lasted from about 1600 BC to about 600 BC, approximately, the society was divided into higher and lower social classes called Varnas. The higher classes, specifically the priest class, demanded several privileges like gift, exemption from taxes, and no punishment for any reason whatsoever. The four classes were Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, with the Shudra being the lowest. The first reason for rise and popularity of Buddhism was that the lower classes of Varnas were used as domestic slaves, craftsmen, and laborers. The lower the class a person belonged to, the higher was the punishment for any indiscretion. The warrior class, also known as Kshatriyas, were the rulers and were reacting strongly against the religious domination of the priestly class. This was one of the reasons why around 62 religious sects were started at around the second half of 6th century BC. Out of these sects, the most famous ones were Buddhism and Jainism. Gautam Buddha belonged to a Kshatriya class and Buddhism was a natural progression to stop the domination of the Vedic classes already established. The second reason for the rise and popularity of Buddhism was that northeastern part of India during this time period of about 600 BC started using iron tools. This was a massive leap in metal technology. This allowed people to clear huge areas which were previously inaccessible due to thick forests. This area now could be cultivated and there was a boom in agriculture. Agriculture, however, could not flourish without animal husbandry, and the Vedic practices of sacrificing animals was unacceptable for the new agriculture. This was also one of the cultural reasons as to why we see a strict vegetarian diet in the Buddhist religion. The third reason for rise and popularity of Buddhism was that new cities came up in this region of northeast part of India and were populated by artisans and traders who started using coins. These coins, belonging to around 500 BC, were called punchmark coins. These coins facilitated trade and commerce, and the trader class of India, called the Vaishyas, started getting very rich and prosperous. The trader class wanted the privileges enjoyed by the higher class and started supporting Buddhism. The trader classes primarily supported Buddhism due to three important reasons. Number one, Buddhism in the starting stages did not attract importance to the class system of earlier religion. This allowed its patron to be treated equally and not as lower class. The second reason why Buddhism was supported by traders was that Buddhism preached the gospel of non-violence. If Buddhism became the prominent religion taken up by the rich section of society, and especially the ruling class, it would put an end to wars between kingdoms. This would promote trade and commerce, and therefore the rich trader class started extending generous money and political support to the Buddhism. This helped Buddhism to blossom at a very fast rate. The third reason why traders were supporting Buddhism was due to the fact that law books of the time, called the Dharma Sutra, did not allow lending money on interest. The trader class, called Vaishya, had to lend money on interest for trade and was looked down upon. Therefore, the rich trader class were eager to improve their social status. Another reason for the rise of popularity of Buddhism was that during this period, due to rise of trade and private property, the condition of the poor masses became even worse. The poor masses did not like the new dwelling, new system of transportation, which amounted to luxury of the rich. The poor masses wanted to get rid of this inequality, and Buddhism preferred simple living and asked to forego the luxuries of life. This dislike of materialistic and unequal was disliked by the poor masses and led them to support Buddhism. Dislike for new technology was seen again later during the Industrial Revolution, where people wanted to discard machine and wanted to revert to a pre-machine lifestyle. Similarly, the people of the 6th century BC wanted to revert back to a life before the Iron Age. The journey of Siddhartha to becoming Gautam Buddha. As discussed earlier, Siddhartha was born to a royal family in Lumbini village of Kapilavastu in Nepal in 563 BC. We know this because of the Rumnidai pillar of Ashoka the Great, which points out exactly where Buddha was born. Since his early childhood, Gautama showed a meditative bent of mind. He was married early, but this life did not interest him. It is said that Gautama received 4 signs: an old man, a sick man, a dead body, and a monk. Seeing these signs deeply disturbed him, and he started questioning the realities of life and society. He was moved by the suffering of the world and looked for a solution. Therefore, he left home at the age of 29, and this event is termed as Mahabhinshramana. He kept wandering for 7 years, and as a homeless monk, and during this time he had 2 teachers called Alara Kalama, who met Gautam at Vaishali, and Uddaka, also known as Brahmaputra, who met Gautama at Rajgriha. Gautama bathed at a river called Niranjana and sat under a peepal tree at Bodh Gaya, India. He attained enlightenment at the age of 35, and from here onwards he was called Buddha, or the Enlightened One. After his enlightenment, he was also known as Sakamuni, which means sage of the Saka clan, and also as Tathagata, which means he who has attained the truth. Buddha, despite popular depiction, had a strong physique which allowed him to walk 15 to 20 miles every day. He kept on wandering, preaching, and meditating continuously for 40 years. He regularly had debated supporters of other religions, and his kind nature was known to win over in debates. In his missionary activities, he was known to treat everyone equally, regardless of wealth, gender, or class in a society. Buddha's first sermon was held at a place called Deer Park in Sarnath. This was a great historic event and has been recorded in history. And this first sermon is called Dharma Chakra Parivartan, or the turning of the wheel. Buddha also laid foundation to the Sangha, which is the Buddhist order, and at the age of 80 in 483 BC, he passed away at a place called Kushinagar in India.